I'm going to predict a draw and go on to penalties, and I'm not going to go on to say who wins on penalties, but I do think it'll be a 2-2 draw. My main look on this is I feel like Tottenham will field a slightly weakened team and maybe underestimate us, and we seem to be at our best against teams that are better than us. So that is my prediction, 2-2. Well then, here we are, a big game this Wednesday in the third round of the League Cup. Coventry City taking on Tottenham Hotspur. It's a massive honour to be on this channel. Thank you very much to Chris for inviting me on. I've got loads of questions here looking ahead to the game. But firstly, to introduce myself, my name is Alex Craig. I'm a massive Coventry City fan. I'm a YouTuber with just over 6,000 subscribers. I make videos at every single Coventry City League, Cup match, pre-season friendly. Also do a bit of ground hopping here and there. I've only 3 grounds left of the EFL 92. I visited Tottenham back in 2019. Just a big lover of football, and I'm really looking forward to this game on Wednesday night against Spurs. Over the past couple of years as a Sky Blues fan, I've been supporting since now, 2006. So this past couple of years has been a really good period for us, watching us play at Wembley twice. But enough talking about me. I would say enough talking about Coventry City, but I think I am here to kind of have my expertise tested a little bit with all these questions that Chris has set me. And the first one being, how would I describe this season so far? Personally, I'm a little disappointed. I feel like only winning 1 of 5, especially with the transfer window that we had, is really, really poor. But in the past couple of years, we've had this tendency to start really slow. I mean, the season we finished in the playoffs, made it to the playoff final and lost on penalties. At this stage, we'd only picked up 1 point. So I don't like to dwell on early games, but I haven't really been impressed with any of our performances. Even the game we did win against Oxford, the 3-2, we conceded 2 very poor goals. But coming off Saturday's performance at Watford, a game that I left, it reminded me a little bit of a game we had at Bristol City last year where we should have won. We were knocking on the door, but it was even worse. I mean, Hadji Wright hit the post, Josh Eccles fired one over the bar, and then in the lead up to Watford's goal there was a big foul. So, you know, drawing that game 1-1, little disappointed, massively felt like we dropped 2 points there. But going into the Tottenham game, hopefully we can build that optimism, make a good account of ourselves, because we're not going to be favourites. We've seen it over the past couple of seasons when we play teams either high up in the Championship or in the Premier League. You know, we make a good account of ourselves even if we don't go on to win the game. And that's what I'd like to see us do against Spurs. But as for my opinion on the start of our campaign, it hasn't been great, but it's only early days. You know, I could be saying this and in 2 weeks' time, we could be pushing for playoffs, 6 points, 9 points later. So it is early days. Now, what have I made from Tottenham's start of the season? Now, obviously, my eyes have been fully focused on Coventry City, so I can't really have that much of an opinion on Tottenham, especially as I'm not a Tottenham fan. I haven't watched every single game. Again, 4 games in, North London derby at home. Not to win, that's a little bit disappointing. I think even if they'd have got a draw, there'd be a little bit more momentum going into this. Winning only 1 game. And then a draw against Leicester as well, which I watched that game. I felt like Tottenham should have come away with the 3 points, especially in the first half. They're absolutely brilliant. Again, a little bit like us, it is early days. It will be interesting to see how Tottenham do go on over the season, especially with European football standing in their way. Just them extra fixtures, really. Can't say I've been too impressed with Tottenham, but, you know, it's Spurs, right? I'm sure Spurs fans watching this, they know the saying, it's very Spursy. And I'd say it's a pretty Spursy start, to be honest. What players should you look out for Coventry City? Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest. Mark Robinson's come out and says he is going to be mixing the side up. If you look at the 2 teams that he played against, Bristol City and Oxford United in the first 2 rounds, it wasn't really our strongest side. So I could sit here and point out certain players and then them not play. But I can't go without talking about our 2 main strikers in Ellis Sims and Hadji Wright, 2 players that were very important in last year's FA Cup run, scoring the goals against Man United and Wolves in that quarter-final and semi-final. Ellis Sims, obviously formerly at Everton, scored against Chelsea in the Premier League, so he does have that Premier League experience. But away from that, two key players that are both rumoured to be coming back into the fold after injury, Tatsuhiro Sakamoto and Ben Sheaf, are two very exciting players. Ben Sheaf's a midfielder who has been linked with many Premier League clubs. Just how good he is and how much he changes our team, it's absolutely vital that Sheaf's in that side, because when we're not playing Ben Sheaf, it just feels like we might as well be playing with 10 men. As for Sakamoto, he had this kind of 3-month period last season where he was firing in goals, getting assists, megging pretty much every left back in the Championship. And then he got injured, and we're starting to see him slowly get back into the fold, slowly pick up his form. So if he does play against Tottenham, it'd be exciting to see how he gets on. Which players in the Tottenham side do I fear? Now, I think fear is a pretty interesting word, because when I look at that Tottenham side, I see a very strong Premier League side that should easily be pushing for the European places. But there's individuals in that side who, when they're at Championship level, the likes of Archie Gray, Dominic Solanke, Brennan Johnson, I myself would have feared. But after seeing us come up against some Premier League sides recently, beating Everton 3-0 in pre-season, Man United at Wembley, beating Wolves at Molineux, there's a lot of big names in them squads that I would have feared going into the game, and I've come out of it and not been so, thrown back. So I don't want to say I'm fearing anyone. I think now I feel like we can hold our own, but I can't deny Tottenham have a very good squad. The likes of James Maddison, Heung-min Son, two players that can switch a game in an instant. Dominic Solanke, we've seen it as Coventry fans, him scoring goals. He was brilliant in the Championship for Bournemouth, and I've seen how good he was last year in the Premier League. So when he does hit form for Tottenham, he can easily be one of the best strikers, if not the best English striker in the Premier League. So as for players I fear, I don't really want to look at individuals, because I could sit here and easily say, I fear James Maddison and Ange leave him out, because obviously as well, it's very likely that Ange Postecoglou will be making some changes to the side. As you've asked, which players would I like to see left out? James Maddison is not one of them players. Him being a former Coventry City Academy graduate, I'd love James Maddison to play against us. Obviously, he's gone on to play for England, win the FA Cup with a team who I wouldn't like to really speak about their FA Cup win. But still, James Maddison has been very successful since leaving us. Went to Norwich, went to Aberdeen, and has made it now to Tottenham. I'd probably like it if maybe a couple of defenders were left out, maybe a Van der Ven or a Romero, have it a little bit easier on the night. But again, North London derby, a 1-0 loss. Tottenham, even though would probably be expected to make a couple of changes, aren't going to disrespect us, and they could go out there, put out a very strong side, build up that momentum, and it could really catapult that Spurs side onwards in the Premier League. So I don't want to sit here and say which players I'd like again to be left out, because I'd love it if Tottenham played their under-18s. It'd be a lot easier for us. So what have I made of Coventry City's run in the League Cup so far? We started things off with a 1-0 win away from home against Bristol City. Ellis Sims scoring the goal. We moved on to Oxford in the second round at home. Another 1-0 win. Brandon Thomas Asante that time scoring our goal. So 2 wins against 2 sides who we played in the league, and 2 sides we've already played this season as well. So they weren't very exciting fixtures, and that's why we were so surprised when we got Tottenham. Coventry fans were saying it was either going to be Swansea or Watford, because that's who we had last weekend, and we have Swansea next weekend. So it was just that sort of thinking. Getting far in a cup is something that under Mark Robins we're not very used to. I know we made it to the FA Cup semi last year, but bar one FA Cup run back in League Two that saw us make it to the 5th round, losing to Brighton and Hove Albion, who were a Premier League side, making it through to the 2nd round of a League Cup is rare. So to make it to the 3rd round is brilliant. I think this is something that Doug King, the new owner, has started to bring in, and he said, look, I want us to go on a cup run. It's good financially, it's good for the morale of the players, and it's fantastic for us fans because we get to see us play against side that we, don't usually play against. This is the first time Tottenham are coming to the CBS Arena. Last year we played Maidstone for the first time ever in our history. So there is that excitement there a little bit. I love watching us play against new teams. But to talk about the 2 wins so far in the League Cup, I wouldn't say either was a very convincing win. We were just the better of 2 pretty poor teams on the night. If we perform like that against Tottenham, I wouldn't be surprised if we do crash out of the cup. Now, what are my thoughts on Mark Robins and the amazing job he has done as Coventry City manager? Now, I could be sat here, and this could be a completely different video. I could be here for an hour or 2 talking about how much of a great job Mark Robins has done as manager. And when he took over in 2017, we were dead and buried. We looked like we were going to be relegated to League Two. And was he the man to keep us up? No. And I did not think when we were relegated that day that Robins would stay. But he did. He took us back up to League One. First time of asking, a convincing win in the semi-final against Notts County. We beat Exeter in the playoff final, and that was the start of a rebuild. In League One, first season back, we had a mid-table finish, a pretty decent side. Behind the scenes, there was a lot going on. We moved out of the Rico come the end of that season. There was protests throughout the season. There was no real investment in the playing squad from the owners at the time, Sisu. So if you're Mark Robins, you've been there for a few years, maybe you leave. He didn't do that. We went to St Andrews, and it was probably one of the worst times I've ever had watching football. I was travelling to Birmingham City's ground every other week to watch Coventry City play. I was there in a leasing.com trophy when 375 fans watched us beat Southampton's under-21s 3-2. But yeah, it doesn't matter how we did it through goals per game due to COVID. We were still promoted come the end of the season as champions back to the Championship. Our first season back in the Championship, we just about stayed up. Behind closed doors season at St Andrews, so we still didn't have a ground. But our second season, we moved back to the Rico. Our third, we got rid of some toxic owners. But all through this period, Mark Robins was there. He is the one man who has stuck with us, stuck with the fans. There's been a big shuffle this season with the coaches, and it's had a lot of our fans uncertain that maybe it's going to have a big negative effect on the club. But for the time being, the job that Mark Robins has done, it's up there with Jimmy Hill and John Stillett. From all the success that Mark Robins has given us, one big opportunity we did have was the FA Cup semi-final, and I'm just going to talk about that game. That game was absolutely crazy. The adrenaline I felt that day, the feeling I had that day when we made it 3-3, I was physically shaking. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the game, but just to quickly go through it, at one point we're 3-0 down. And at that point, as a Coventry fan, we're playing against Man United. You know, on paper, one of the biggest clubs in the world. They've won FA Cup after FA Cup, Premier League after Premier League, multiple Champions Leagues. It's a day out. So then we made it 3-1. And then a deflection, Callum O'Hare, it's 3-2. All of a sudden, there's a handball, which, you know, everyone around me is going penalty, penalty. All of a sudden, the ref's pointing to the spot. It's a penalty, and Haji Wright buries it. And somehow, Man United have absolutely bottled it. And just the feeling I had, the adrenaline, was absolutely crazy. When Victor Torp scored that fourth goal, when there's that little toenail that they're saying Haji's offside. But I know for a fact, if that's Man United, I don't want to sit here and moan. If that's Man United, that goal is given. There's no offside there, and we're leaving saying that was offside. So, you know, it's just modern football. It's just how it's gone with this whole VAR thing. Luckily, at the moment, we don't have to put up with it as much. That's one thing Tottenham will have when they come to us, no VAR. But then to lose on penalties, and the way some of the Man United players celebrated was very, very embarrassing. But looking back, it's still a fantastic memory. I'm hoping we can make more of them. We have made so many memories. We've been to Wembley 4 times since Mark Robins has been to manager, which is absolutely crazy because the times before that was the FA Cup win against Spurs in '87 and the Community Shield game against Everton the following season. So it's hard to really, you know, look at this squad now and look at all these memories and then look at that United one and think, wow, what a great day it was because of the result. But man, what a crazy experience that was as a Coventry City fan, seeing us in an FA Cup semi-final and really holding our own. How did I feel about drawing Tottenham in the Cup? Now, when the draw was made, I thought it was a quite strange format, especially seeing as they'd already drawn the 6 European sides beforehand. So when our name came out, it was instantly obvious that we were going to draw Tottenham, as we were the last team that had come out that were going to play one of the European sides. And out of the European sides, I think Tottenham was probably the least attractive for me and for our fans, especially Tottenham at home. It would have been fantastic to go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with the Sky Blues, but I looked back a couple of days later and thought, look, Tottenham at home, that's a great fixture. A couple of seasons ago, we'd have been absolutely buzzing with that. And I think as fans now, we've been spoiled with so many of these trips to Wembley, playoff semi-finals, beating Leicester in a derby, sellout crowds now against Birmingham and Sunderland, like really big games. It's got to the point where we're playing a massive side like Tottenham who are playing in European football, and there's not so much hype around it now because our fans have been spoiled. Like, I was there when there was like 7,000 against Forest Green Rovers, so it's a massive contrast. It's still a really exciting fixture, and I am pretty buzzing to be playing Spurs because, like I said, a lot of our fans thought we'd be playing Watford. So the atmosphere at the CBS Arena, what can Spurs fans expect? Now, if I'm honest, If Coventry were in the Premier League, we'd have one of the best atmospheres in the Premier League. We definitely have one of the best atmospheres in the Championship. Our home fan base over the past couple of seasons has gone on leaps and bounds. I remember being up there in League 1 and 2. There was just a small group of us with a drum and a couple of flags trying to get an atmosphere going. Now we've got 4 or 5 blocks. We've got all safe standing. Even the edge of the safe standing will have people standing up, clapping, singing. No matter if it's Tottenham in the Cup, Leicester in a big derby, or Maidstone like we had last season, there's always a really good atmosphere at the CBS. However, if we talk about hype for a game, to play a Premier League side at home in the Cup, especially one competing in Europe, you would expect it to be a sellout. But sadly, a lot of fans are looking away from this fixture. They'd rather watch it at the pub or at home because the cheapest junior ticket is £20 and they feel like it's not affordable anymore for families to go and watch the Sky Blues in the League Cup. It's a League Cup game. Prices have doubled from the second round. And look, if the game was at Tottenham, I'm sure that the prices would be pretty similar, right? The club need to make money somehow, but there's a lot of fans that are still looking away from it, which is a shame. It is a real shame. I do hope there will still be a good crowd there. I do expect at least 20,000. I might be wrong. It could be a sellout. I really don't know. But the atmosphere is always really good, especially against Spurs. I expect it to be bouncing in the CBS. So then on to my predictions ahead of the game against Tottenham. Now, firstly, I'm going to start with my team predictions. I do think it's going to be Ben Wilson starting in net. I know Oliver Doveen has been a mainstay in our league campaign so far, but if you look at the 2 cup games we've played, Ben Wilson's played in both of them, clean sheets in both of them, and actually saved us really from that Bristol City game. In the first half, he had a couple of really good saves, keeping us in the game, keeping us in the cup. So I think Ben Wilson has done nothing wrong to lose his spot in the starting 11 for our League Cup games. As for the defence, I think we are going to go for a back 4. Sometimes Robins does go kind of a 3-5-2, but I do think we are going to go with a back 4, just mainly down to squad depth really. Defensively, centre-halves, we do have 4 centre-halves that can really play week in, week out, but we did play a 3-5-2 on Saturday, and I do think he is going to rest Thomas and Kitchen. The 2 centre-backs I do think he's going to go with are Louis Binks, former Tottenham Hotspur Youth Academy player, played at Bologna and in the MLS as well, and alongside him, Joel Latibodiere. Previously at Swansea, he's got that experience. He's captained the side quite a lot as Ben Sheaf has been out. And as for the fullbacks, I think to be left back, Jake Bidwell, a big fan favourite. He's had a couple of good seasons with us. Started this one not as good as maybe expected. Lost his spot on Saturday to Jada Silva. So I think he comes in on Tuesday. He's going to try and battle his spot and try and get back into the first team for the league games. And at right back, I think it's going to be Milan van Uwijk, a quick player, a really exciting player. He's got a long throw, even an eye for goal for a fullback. Always looking for an assist as well. Huge fan favourite, Milan van Uwijk. Definitely a player that Tottenham fans should look out for. In terms of midfield, I feel like Victor Torp is going to be back in the side. Alongside him, Josh Eccles. 2 midfielders that have played the majority of this season. Eccles had a good game against Watford, so I don't think he deserves to lose his spot. And if fit, I'd like to see Ben Sheaf start. The former Arsenal Academy player, it'd be lovely to see him come back in the side. I think it'd be a good game for him maybe to get 45, 60 minutes in. If not, Jamie Allen. Again, I know a lot of fans would have started Jack Rodoni, but I think we need him fit for Saturday. He played the full 90 minutes at Watford and put in a pretty decent performance, nearly scoring near the end. But up in attack is where we've got a lot of options. I think Hadji Wright on one wing. He's just come back from international duty, came on off the bench against Watford, hitting the post. I'd like to see Brandon Thomas Asante on the other, as well as Norman Bissett up front. He looked like he was going to come on against Watford, but didn't. He's a 19-year-old striker from Belgium who's really got a point to prove. He's yet to have a big opportunity for us. So this would be a perfect game for him to really make his name known with the Sky Blue fans. If not, I think it will be Ellis Sims who starts up front. But I am going to put Bissett in there because fans are saying he should start. And then onto the score prediction, I am going to predict a draw and go on to penalties. And I'm not going to go on to say who wins on penalties, but I do think it'll be a 2-2 draw. My main look on this is I feel like Tottenham will field a slightly weakened team and maybe underestimate us. And we seem to be at our best against teams that are better than us. So that is my prediction, 2-2. I'm really looking forward to the game against Spurs on Wednesday night. It's going to be a massive occasion. Hopefully, on my behalf, Coventry can win. But if not, Best of luck to Tottenham in the next rounds and further on in the League Cup. I've been Alex Craig. You can find me on YouTube where I'll be videoing and vlogging Wednesday night's game. I'm sure there'll be loads more coverage on this channel, so please do subscribe to Chris's channel. He does so much great work for England and Tottenham games. Like I said, it's an absolute honour to be a guest on this channel, and thank you very much for watching.